Player props here on PrizePicks for Tuesday, May 16th. Before I get started, there is a link in the description below. You guys can sign up for PrizePicks there, or you guys can use promo code TUFF, 100% deposit match. Discord link is in the description as well. Main server completely free. We have the Patreon link in there where I do post all the plays here that I'm making on PrizePicks for each given sport that I do play. Again, I am not a gambling expert, and this is not financial advice. These are simply just plays I'm personally looking at making. Hopefully, give you guys some insight and analysis to then make your own player prop decisions. Again, no one's pressing submit on those parlays except for yourselves. But we have the single NBA game tonight, the game one of the Western Conference Finals. We got the Lakers versus the Nuggets, 5:30 p.m. Pacific time, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time start here in this game. I think the Denver, it's not here on RotoWire. Let me refresh this, but I believe Denver is 6-point favorites here in this game one. We have seen the Lakers be underdogs in the game ones of the first two series, and they ended up winning those game ones here. So Lakers also on 3 days rest. So I'm hoping and I'm assuming this game should remain relatively close, at least through the first three quarters. If this is going to be a somewhat of a blowout, I think there should be enough minutes for all these guys here to hit the overs on their props tonight. Hopefully, again, with the NBA playoffs, we do never know here. But I got two plays that I'm targeting from this game. Don't want to waste anyone's time. Let's just get right into it. So the first one is going to be Jokic over 9.5 assists. I think the Lakers are going to be double teaming Jokic. I think they're kind of under the impression that if they can stop Jokic from scoring and doing all of his damage, I mean, he does his damage in multiple ways on the court. Just him being on the court, his presence alone is obviously extremely positive for the Nuggets. But at 9.5 assists, he's hit this in 4 of his last 4 games, 17, 11, 12, and 12. So he's hit this by at least by at least one assist over his last 4 games. Has been playing extremely well, obviously, throughout the playoffs. His usage will be through the roof. But let's take a look at Outlier here. Again, there's a link in the description at the top of this video description to get a 7-day free trial with Outlier. Outlier, to me, in my opinion, the best resource tool for player props here. We take a look at his last 5, 80% hit rate over his last 5. We take a look at this season for Jokic, right? This has a 55% hit rate this season. If we move this over to home, you can see the amount of green we have for Nikola Jokic. And in that, we see him at home when he plays, 34 plus minutes. The hit rate is extremely high once again for him to have 10 assists in this matchup. We take a look at Jokic's potential assists on the season. In 35 home games, he averages 11.1 assists per game. So, 2 assists over essentially this line at 17.1 potential assists per game for Jokic. We take a look at his game log this season at home, logging 35 plus minutes. Let's do this including playoffs here. For Jokic, obviously this has an extremely high hit rate as well. We look at he's only missed this 4 games this season when he plays 35 plus minutes at home. I do like the Lakers to double him. Again, he had his highest assist game this season against the Lakers at home, where he finished with 14, 11, and 16 assists in that matchup. Only took 5 field goal attempts, but 16 assists in only 35 minutes. So we know Jokic can do kind of damage in a variety of different ways here, but I'm expecting Lakers to double team Jokic anytime he gets the ball at the top of the key, maybe even in the post. I know they probably want to limit the amount of times AD is covering him on the block, to limit AD's potential fouls. Lakers do not want AD to foul out of this game here, but their hit rate being so green here with 34 plus minutes at home. Also with the Lakers, on the season, number 4 ranked team as far as pace goes. There should be a ton of possessions here for Nikola Jokic to be able to get assists. We take a look at some bigs that the Lakers faced in the playoffs so far this season. We saw Kevon Looney in that game 1 where he played 29 minutes. He had 5 assists. And then even in game 3 where Kevon Looney played 16 minutes, he had 4 assists. So we saw bigs, Kevon Looney has a decent amount of assists for a player who you wouldn't consider a passing big. And then also Xavier Tillman had assist games of 3, 3, 2, 6, 4 assists. He had a 6 assist game here at the Lakers in 42 minutes. So we're seeing bigs so far in this playoffs be able to kind of pass the ball or look to pass the ball off the post or in the block. And on the top of the key coming off, dribble handoffs and things like that. For shooters, we know Jokic is probably the best at that in the NBA, in his ability to do that and find open teammates. He literally, on the half-court sets, he has the ball in his hand every single time almost. He needs to touch the ball for the Nuggets to be successful. I just think 9.5, I think it's appropriately priced at 9.5. I think that's an extremely fair line as far as, it just being tough to decide here. But I think in a matchup where he's going to play 35-plus minutes, regardless of kind of the score, Lakers aren't going to get super blown out here, in my opinion, off 3 days rest. So I like Jokic over 9.5 assists. He had his highest assist game this season against the Lakers. I don't believe AD. I don't think AD played in this game though. However, Yeah, it was against the Lakers backups here, but regardless, somewhat of a similar defensive scheme. Obviously, the Lakers are that much more elite defensively. Like the Lakers defense, number one team in the NBA, and as far as defense goes, so that should help Jokic's potential assists here, as they probably will double him. And again, AD is very elite defender, so he should be making things a little bit tougher on Jokic here tonight. So I like Jokic over 9.5 assists here at home, where the hit rate is just extremely high. And then the second play is going to be a first half play here, and I think it's just a play that in my opinion is too low. I like Anthony Davis over 25.5 fantasy in the first half. So dating back to the last two series here for AD, I mean, we saw this fantasy score line in the first half consistently at 28.5, and it was even as high as 29.5 for some of those games here. He's been a wagon in the first half more specifically. I mean, you could pivot and take a look at his full game fantasy score, in my opinion, at 50.5. Just seems a little bit too low as well. But for Anthony Davis, who has been playing extremely well, we mitigate any potential blowout risk here for AD at 25.5 in the first half here. This just has an extremely high hit rate. We take a look at his first half fantasy score game log this season when he plays 18 plus minutes in the first half. More likely than not, he's playing 18 plus minutes in the first half. I mean, let's just take a look. Let's just remove this 18 plus minutes here. I mean, he doesn't need 18 plus minutes necessarily, but Anthony Davis first half game log this season. I think I have in the playoffs here. Yeah, so this is his fantasy score game log this season in the playoffs. This is through 12 games here, and he's only missed this 3 times. So he's gone over this in 9 of 12 playoff games so far here for AD. 27, 30.9, 31, 32, 35, 37, 37, 41, and 42. So he's hit the overall. He's had 30 plus fantasy points in 8 of 12 playoff games so far in the first half. 30 plus fantasy points. All we need is 25.6 tonight from Anthony Davis. We take a look, obviously, only behind Jokic as far as fantasy points per minute. On the season, he's a 1.5 fantasy points per minute player. Over the last 5, 1.32. So let's just say conservatively, he's a 1.32 fantasy points per minute player. We say he plays 18 minutes tonight. That is around 23.7, 24 fantasy points for AD. And that's conservative, right? That's talking about conservatively a 1.32 over his last 5, 1.45 over his last 10. So we take a look. I'm just doing a calculator. 1.45 times, let's just say he plays 18 minutes. That's 26.1 fantasy. And all that, obviously, that is a conservative projection here for Anthony Davis. I think 25.5 just too low here. We take a look at his first half fantasy score game log, even dating back to the regular season. You can see the hit rate here for Anthony Davis, extremely high as well. Right, obviously, playoff AD has kind of been a different type of animal here, but I mean, Anthony Davis has had some monster first half games this season. 37, 37, 37, 37 in 4 games here. And on the road has a pretty decent hit rate. I mean, we look at these top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 of his top 11 fantasy score games in the first half have come on the road. So we know the Lakers are going to look to rely on AD. We know Denver's one of their weaknesses is allowing points in the paint and real rim protection here. On the season, they allowed the 9th most points in the paint at 52.5. Jokic has been playing a little bit better defense as of late. But again, he's not going to be able to stop AD. AD has speed to his advantage, should be able to get any kind of shot he wants, especially on the perimeter. As far as just within like 15 to 13 feet from the basket, AD should be able to do whatever he wants, in my opinion here. We take a look at his first half fantasy score game log this season against the Nuggets. He played 3 games against the Nuggets. Obviously, these games were earlier in the season, much earlier in the season. But at Denver versus Jokic, he had 29.5 fantasy earlier this season. He had 26.9 fantasy earlier this season in only 16 minutes versus Denver, and then he had 21.8 fantasy. So he's had 21 plus fantasy points in all 3 games versus Denver this season. Already scored 29.5 fantasy against Jokic at Denver. Same exact scenario that we have tonight. Jokic, AD earlier this season, 29.5. I think his overall ability to get fantasy points has only increased. One being in the playoffs, the stars are the stars in the playoffs and things like that. But with the new rotation and the new lineups that the Lakers roll out and just the way they play defense, it is putting AD in a position to absolutely thrive, in my opinion here. So I like Anthony Davis here a lot over 25.5 fantasy. Again, really taking this play, it's too low. Like, this was at 28.5 for the entire Golden State series, was at 29.5 for some of the games in Memphis. So at 25.5 just seems too low for me. I think first half we mitigate the risk of a blowout as well. So these are the two plays here, absolute studs. Jokic over 9.5 assists, Anthony Davis over 25.5 fantasy. I do also want to reiterate that we don't know. I mean, this game one, it could go either way. It could go a bunch of different ways. So it's, again, to remember to, I think this game, we can't really get a read on it. Obviously, it's the Western Conference Finals, so anything can happen. But let me know in the comments below how you guys feel about these two plays. Drop a like on this video. All the links are in the description below. Hit that subscribe button, and as always, let's cash.